All right, everyone. Last looks. Quiet on set. Roll sound. Sound speed. Roll camera. Camera speed. Scene 1. Take 1. Market. And action. Hi, I'm Ed, the host of Savannah on Film, and we explore the economic and cultural impact and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. You can find us here on WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Hello, Savannah. Hello, the world. Welcome to another show here of Savannah on Film. And our purpose here is to explore the economic and cultural impacts and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. We are here on WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and welcome everyone out there listening. And we have a guest today who wears many hats in the film industry, and his name is Mason Boudreau. Welcome, Mason.
Hello. Thank you. Some nice intro music you have, by the way, too. I like that.
Thank you. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about a little intro on Mason here. Mason is a producer, director, writer, editor, and the force behind Gradient Pictures and Montage Cinemas. Two of the shining achievements in film that Mason has accomplished are the feature film Jade and the web series entitled Craft, and we're going to be going into greater detail of those two achievements. First, we're going to look, Mason, at your accomplishments, and you were in the 48-hour film project for 2018. You got a nomination, and also, you won, and your nomination was for Best Editing on the movie called The Agreement, the short there. It was a comedy, right?
Right.
And you shared that with Evan Schmidt, and that's The Agreement.
Correct.
You were also a winner of Best Use of Dialogue for The Agreement, which you also shared with Evan Schmidt.
That's right.
Who is writer, Tamara Crane, producer, and Lynn Legerman. I always say that wrong.
Lynn Lagerman, yeah.
Lagerman. Thank you. Sorry about that, Lynn. She was also a producer on The Agreement. So was this your first 48-hour?
It was the first one in Savannah.
First one in Savannah. Where was your other one previously?
Jacksonville.
2017
was the first one we did.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the 2017 one first, and then we'll talk about 2018, or?
Yeah, I mean, the 2017, we did a film called Ripple.
Okay.
We were assigned action adventure. It's really fun when that was one where I had to wear a lot of hats. I actually ended up playing one of the main characters of the film, which I don't really dive too much into acting, so it was fun.
Okay.
I think we placed in the top 10, and we won best choreography for that one. And it was cool. It was the team that we had a really good team. It was the same people we did the show Craft with, Jade, all that stuff. It was kind of the last big project we've done together.
Okay. Let's talk about The Agreement. What was that like?
It was cool. I just moved to Savannah. The team, we all met together I want to say the Wednesday before we started shooting on Saturday. So it was really fun because, not knowing anybody, you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know, what people are good at or bad at. and it went really well. I would say we had a lot of fun. The writing process was a lot of fun. It was cool.
The tagline on that is, for the agreement, and I got to do my radio voice here, contention ensues between roommates as a traveling rapper takes up residence in their house under dubious authorization.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Man. It was really funny. We kind of, with not knowing everybody's schedule and us, when you don't work with somebody and you have 48 hours to write, direct, and edit, you really kind of have to just trust people. And that was our thing, was if we can make people laugh, that was no matter what we did, we tried to make people laugh, because we all felt like just from that first meeting that we could do that.
What was the differences between Jacksonville being in the 48 and this year Savannah in the 48 hour?
There were a lot more teams in Jacksonville. There were, I think, I want to say somewhere between 30 and 40 teams there, compared to, I think there were just 19 films here. Outside of that, the experience of making the film is the same.
Right. Right. Same process.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing, is just the sheer amount of people. And it was interesting. You get a lot of different, I think the range of quality was bigger in Jacksonville too, because there's so many films. There were a lot of good ones. And then, as we're Savannah, I think there were really a lot of good films there too. But I would say that's pretty much the main thing. I
noticed from being in last year's 48 here in Savannah, and then also this year's as a sound mixer, that there was a lot more seriousness in a lot of the films. There's still, a good mixed bag of genres. Right. And of course, whatever you is assigned to you, you have to do that. But it seemed like the ones that got like the drama, they really went for it, or they really went pretty far for, films. Sometimes you see films and you might say it's a horror or something like that, or it's a drama, and it's almost there, but I felt like they really broke through a lot of the films this year in the different genres here, and it was an enjoyable experience. And it's all about that whole experience where you're given the elements, and then you just got to create something. It's amazing, and to do it in 48 hours. Right.
I really enjoy it. I like working with deadlines. I think it's a lot more fun. And I think you get a lot more creativity from working that way, when you have time. When you have time to change things, you can just go down that rabbit hole, just always trying to tweak.
Right.
And when you have that deadline, it's pretty cool. Oh, and there were a lot more black and white films here in Savannah than in Jacksonville last year.
Yeah, there was definitely one this year that I thought. So they don't do a lot of black and white in Jacksonville?
No.
I
just remember there were two, and it was just like, it was interesting. Then
I think one of them was like film noir. So
it was one that won. Yeah, it was cool. No, it was really cool.
Yeah, and it worked out.
I was a big fan of both those films.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a really fun experience for me. And so Ripple was your 2017
correct
short.
Yep.
Okay. On that, let's see. So you have a movie that was premiered, and I was doing my research, and premiered in a theater, feature-length movie called Jade.
Yes.
So what would you like to tell everyone about Jade who hasn't seen it?
So definitely check it out. Okay. It is it's kind of my baby as a filmmaker. The group that we have in Jacksonville, we worked really, really hard on that film. It's a story about motherhood, about it's a coming of age story. Mm-hmm. We shot it with a small budget. We self-financed it. We ended up having a NFL player, a Jaguar player at the time, hop in and do a cameo, help us finish it up. It was shot completely in 6 days.
Wow.
And from the time we started shooting to the time we finished the edit and premiered it, it was about 4.5 months. So, it took over our lives for that complete amount of time.
And you directed it, obviously. So were you just a director on that? Is that the only hat? Or
I wrote, directed, produced, as far as being, I did most things on the film.
You did most things on the film.
Casting and edited. I don't do color correction or anything like that, but as far as getting the cut together.
It's not so easy.
Yeah, no, color correction is not for me.
I tried that, and I'm not there yet.
Right.
I'll stay in sound for a little bit, but
I have a great partner in that, Alex Horton, who, he's my cinematographer, did the color correction, did the entire score. And the two of us together, really, we've worked on everything together so far. We're kind of just this two-man team. We can do pretty much everything but sound.
Okay. So. Well, I know a good sound mixer. But let's see. So, yeah, it was definitely a drama. The tagline is on that, after the death of her sister. Oh, I guess I got to do the voice, don't I?
Yeah, you might as well.
All right. After the death of her sister, Jade must drive her niece cross country to live with her grandparents. Along the way, she deals with her own problems with relationships, substance abuse, and loss.
Yes, sir.
Wow,
That's good.
That's a good tagline
Yeah.
there. So,
You should get a raise for that, man. You should start doing like the trailers.
That's happening.
The guy, I wonder who the guy who does trailers. He's got to be retiring soon.
I
Right?
know.
Yeah.
Coming soon to a theater near you. Yeah.
You got it.
You got to work on that. But yeah, so we have some other ones. Okay, the computer just popped on. Okay, it scared me. It's like, then there was computer. Let's talk about, well, let's change gears before we talk about craft, because Jade was your second film there. Your second, feature.
That's right.
Your first was December.
Yes.
Correct? And that was back in, I believe, 2016?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to chat a little bit about that one?
December, yeah. So December, it was the first project I'd ever worked on. It's kind of what got me into film in general. I decided to start writing a script at one point in my life just to kind of try it. I had never done anything related to film at all. By the time I finished the script, it was like, what do we do with this next? I realized that I kind of learned a lot about the film industry at that point as far as how spec writing goes. And I was like, well, I really just want to try this. Let's make it. So long story short, made a few calls, got in touch with some people. We made that movie. It took about 3 months. And it's not a great film by any means. It was a great experience. And that really got our group together. And a lot of the people who worked on December ended up working on Jade. Okay. And the jump between December to Jade is night and day. I'm very proud of the fact that it really doesn't look the same from a quality,
It's a very, very different film, yeah, aesthetically.
Right. And it's, same group, a lot of the same equipment. It was just that experience of shooting that kind of without doing anything that taught us everything we needed to know.
What were some of the lessons the first time out on a big project like that for you as a filmmaker?
That's a good question. Really, is it just the time put into scheduling? That's the thing I pride myself on, is just trying to fit as much as I can into a small period of time, but sometimes I try to do a little bit too much. So kind of learning how to pace things out. And then the score, we used a lot of, again, my partner, Alex, he's a music producer as well. He had a lot of, pre-made instrumentals that we used, but really putting time and effort into that score was the most important thing. And that's a big jump you could probably tell from film 1 to film 2 is that Jade has a aesthetic visually, and it's got a sound to it. It's its own creature, if you will.
It has its own personality, I guess, as films go.
Right.
And all that. So yeah, you touched on the wearing the different hats there, how difficult it was being the writer and the director. Were you ever at odds with yourself? Like, I wrote it this way, and I know you're I guess co-directing with Alex Horton on that
first one, yeah,
on December. And were there some parts that you wrote about it that you were like, well,
surprised
it's not gonna translate to screen the way I envisioned it or wrote it?
Yeah, I was surprised how much. I think we really shot most of what was on the script. I'm also very open when actors want to do something. It's like, it's not my project. I'm not somebody's going to get on set and say, hey, let's, this is exactly how it's going to be. I have a vision, but I know the project is going to be the best if everybody is involved. So there's a lot of, freelancing, if you will, hey, let's improv this. Hey, if you want to change a line, go ahead. As long as we get, at least one take of how it's written, that's fine. But I was most surprised with how much ended up getting cut. I think the original cut of December was actually about, I think the cut right now is 1 hour and 1 minute, I think. Yeah. And it was about 1 hour and 20 beforehand. So how much of it seems like it works within the script? You read through it, hey, the story works, and you realize, okay, there's, almost a third of this probably that doesn't really help anything. Okay.
How did you get your start in film? I mean, when did the bug first bite you to say, I've got to do something with film. I'm not sure what, but.
So it started, originally I've always been interested in it since I was, from the time I was 3 to 15 years old. My grandmother picked me up every Friday from school early. We would go see a movie, and literally every Friday I saw something new. When I was 13, actually from about 10 to 14 or 15, I dabbled in acting. I did a pilot season in LA, and my mother and I moved out there for a full pilot season, tried that. I realized I wasn't good at it, didn't do anything with it for, almost 10 years after that. And then it just kind of, I was working at a credit union, just kind of a, regular 9-to-5 day job. And I enjoyed it, good job. And then just something was missing, and I just wanted to write. That was the main thing. And I was I noticed a lot that I didn't like dialogue in films. I thought dialogue was really so plot driven.
I can do that better, right?
Exactly. Not that when you get there and do it, you realize, okay, no, there's a reason things are like it. But I just thought, hey, let me write something with dialogue that I would want to hear. I want to write something that people can watch, my friends can watch and relate to and say, oh, I know what they mean. Like, I understand that conversation. I understand that role. I want to just make something that people that I know could relate to, which was kind of a flaw, I think, because in the first film, it's people I know, there's so many little inside jokes, little nuances that people really were into. But if you aren't within that group, it doesn't make sense. And I learned that from project 1 to project 2. It's like, oh, maybe this should be a little more directed towards a general audience.
Well, when you write in your writing process, I know you have to think about the story, obviously, but do you think, of course, about the audience? And do you think about, well, will they get this joke, or is this joke a timely joke, or is it, is this going to date the film, or sometimes that's on purpose,
right. Yeah, I almost want it to feel dated, because I want it to feel as relevant to now. And, and you're watching the film, I say specifically with Jade, there's a lot of different things in there that I wanted people to feel like is lived in. It was right now. And I don't know how I'm going to feel about that 2 or 3 years from now when, some of the references are there. There's like a Snapchat reference in Jade that, who knows, in 10 years if Snapchat's not around, people are like,
what's that?
Yeah.
Oh
but
gosh.
We'll see. But I mean, otherwise I think it made the character a lot more relatable at the time, when we premiered it.
Right. You're in the moment.
Right.
And, yeah, I mean, you see a lot of films that have the, what they're typing comes up on the screen, and
right.
I'm not the visual artist, and I'm sure that's probably an easy trick to any post production person in video, but I hadn't figured that part out yet.
Right. But I would say with as far as the audience, I think filmmaking is very personal, and just for myself, it's like things I find funny, I want to see on film, and I'm hoping that there's going to be other people out there who have the same sense of humor. I don't want to make something that is tailored to everybody, because it's whoever gets it will get it. It's one of those things, and if it's not a lot of people, that's okay with me. That's kind of what the more I be working film, the more I realize how personal it is, and that's really the main driver for me.
So did you have a premiere for it and everything for December?
Yes, we did. We did a premiere for December and Jade at a movie theater in Jacksonville.
Okay.
Same theater. It was awesome experience. We brought everybody together. We sold out. I know the first film in December we sold out. Jade was very close to a sellout, and it was a really fun experience. That's probably the best part. Is for me, it's also about bringing people together, and having the cast and crew and everybody together, family,
right.
friends coming to see that work and see it. That's the most rewarding thing for me.
On Jade, let's switch gears a little bit. For Jade, what's unique about that film from your perspective?
I think it's the characters. I would dive straight into the characters. It was a collaborative effort between all the actors and I. Rhea Ing, who plays Jade, Rashad Mayweather, who plays the character Sean. There's a lot of dialogue with all of us, just kind of trying to make the character as true to the story, but as true to just us and the project as we could. I think if you watch that film, those characters feel very real. They don't seem like characters. They don't talk like characters. It feels almost like we're kind of
like you're eavesdropping.
Exactly.
In their lives, and which is the intention. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it feels like that more. I try to really avoid dialogue that's just there to drive the plot, and that's probably it's my most prideful thing about it.
Okay. Let's see. Well, let's hit a few more movies before we talk about Craft.
Cool.
I'm just looking at your expansive IMDb here. So.
It's expansive. Wow.
Well,
thanks.
Let's see. I got 10,000 notes here. There's a short you did in 2017. You're executive producer, and it's called Spotting.
Yes, Spotting is fantastic.
Okay. What can you say about that?
Spotting is a short film by Katie Parisi, who is you can actually also see in Jade in our show Craft. She had this idea. She wanted to tell the story of a young girl's first period. And she came to us after we had done Jade, us being Grading Pictures, Alex and myself, and wanted us to help tell the story. Of course, we have no idea how to tell that story, but we did best we can. And she had just a great vision for it. She was super hands-on and everything, and it's just this fun. It's a 15-minute film. It's just a fun, quirky comedy that pretty much anybody can relate to. Obviously, any woman can relate to it. There's a nice little, there's a younger brother, there's a dad. I think every kind of aspect that you can have in that scenario, everybody is accounted for. and it's a fun, lighthearted project.
Yeah. Let's see. What was Rowland B?
Roland B. Oh,
Roland
that's Roland B. is I think that's the final episode of Craft.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. That's also Craft. Well, looks like I've stumbled into Craft. So, not that I'm avoiding Craft, but
No.
that would be next on the list anyway. But yeah, that was one of the episodes of that, and I think there are 28 episodes of that, roughly.
25 or 28, yes. I think
Okay.
28 is actually right. Yeah.
And Craft is a web series.
Correct.
Okay. You want me to say what it's about, or would you like to expound on what it's about?
Are you
generally?
going to do it in the voice?
I can do it in
All right,
the
then
voice.
yeah, say it, man.
All right. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. No, okay. Kraft follows the team of Kraft Brewery under new management. The team deals with the day-to-day struggles of the bar and the relationships.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess we could have done a better job on that.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't mean to.
No, it's fine. I didn't actually know. Yeah, so Craft is my favorite project I've ever worked on.
And why so?
It was the most, I think, innovative, fun, and challenging thing that we did. It is a web series. It's a comedy, but the format we shot it at was very similar to like a Saturday Night Live or a South Park, in which we wanted to do a comedic show in the vein of like a Arrested Development, something like that, and have it related to current events. So we would write the show on Thursday, shoot it on Tuesday, and then release it the next week. And we would we'd do this in 3. So we would do episode 1, 2, and 3, write it Thursday, shoot it Tuesday, and the following week it'd be released. And while we're releasing the episodes, we're then still writing, editing. It was super intensive. We had a plan for honestly 6 months of it, but after 28 episodes, having people stick to that schedule when we're all doing it for free is kind of tough. But it was so much fun. I think the quality is definitely subpar. It's not at all where we wanted it to be, because again, when you have that short amount of time to do things, it's things are going to happen. Things are going to go wrong.
It's basically a television series, but on the web, available on the web. So, where are some places that people can find these films we've mentioned?
So, December is on YouTube. Craft is also on YouTube. Jade you can find on Amazon Prime. You can rent it or buy it. So definitely take a look at that one. That's our baby. Can't say enough about that film and the crew on it. And then Craft, like I said, if you have time, each episode, the episodes range from 2 minutes to 12 minutes long. But Craft is a lot of fun if you can get past this poor quality in certain places. Some places it looks and sounds great. Like I said, it's just it was a lot of work. But we had an awesome team.
It sounds like an intensive work out there to try to get those to create a show. I mean, normally if it were a TV show or you'd have an extensive crew that in each department,
right?
And so I'm sure you wore a bunch of hats. You even acted in that. It shows.
I did, yeah.
It's somewhere in there, but along with some others. So, well, I guess you did talk about the struggles with that, and what do you think would have made it easier? Would more crew or more? Well, you have that time constraint. You can't really stretch time.
Oh, I would actually say is possibly. I mean, we still would love to do a second season of it, and if we do go forward with the second season, I think we'll go with a more traditional structure, because it's with no budget at all. We had 6 writers, anywhere from 4 to 11 cast members, 4 crew members, and it's like to get everybody to show up, on a certain time, certain day every week is just it's tough.
It's difficult, yeah. And did you happen to did you have all the writers on each show, or did they do certain episodes? I mean,
yeah, we had
how did your structure on?
We would have our main 6 to 7 writers. We would meet once a week. We would come up with the storylines for the next week. We would together create the storylines for the 3 episodes, and then we would assign those 3 episodes to usually 2 writers apiece. So we would all make the story together, put the overall arc in that week's arc, break it down per episode, and then we'd have pairs of 2 writing the episodes.
Okay.
It worked out.
How did that work out? That worked out well, you thought?
For the most part. You can ask our lead, Noah Bennett.
Okay.
Shout out to Noah Bennett. He played the character Raw. I think he would tell you it didn't work out as well, because he and I definitely had some disagreements. He had some lines, and it's kind of one of those things where there's a disagreement. Right. We have to shoot it this next day. There's not a lot of time to go back.
He was also writing and starring in it, so
he was fantastic. Exactly. So and he had some great ideas that probably didn't get used that should have, and things like that.
It's difficult sometimes writing. I know in like music, and especially in Nashville, a lot of they have very structured meetings where they sit around and they sometimes craft really wonderful country songs or whatever. And it's got to be difficult unless you're on a similar wavelength when you have two different writers. I mean, did you notice a different style or different way that your different writers approached?
Yes, for sure. There were probably 3 different styles kind of going on, which worked because we would try to pair different styles together. Like Noah and I together, we wrote probably 4 or 5 episodes, and they were some of the best ones in my opinion. And he had a couple solo episodes that were great, and there were some that I didn't agree with, and nobody agreed with each other. We all had our ideas. It's like anything. Somebody has an idea, it doesn't hit the floor, you feel a certain way. And I had my own that I really wanted to put out there that didn't go. It's everybody.
We'll save that for the extended edition or something.
Yeah, I kind of became notorious for, hey, well, yeah, we'll just we'll fix that in editing, and then I would never. Yeah, that was kind of my flaw there. It was my go-to if I didn't want to talk about something. So.
I know even in like solo writing on my own, there's things and you edit, and I'm not a good editor. I kind of think, I've created this masterpiece. You have the hubris of thinking what you created, you're so impressed with. But there's always room for editing, and sometimes it's hard if you're also the director and you have to make that decision that what you wrote, something you felt passionate about a few days ago, doesn't flow with the overall arc of that storyline in that particular episode, and you have to cut it. And I know that's probably like,
It's easier to do it if it's your own project, because I'm very committed to a project, and when it comes to the project itself, there's no ego. So I'm going to do what I think is best. I have no problem cutting my own thing. But if it's somebody else's, it does kind of, it hurts. And that's more that's why I think that project is more challenging than, doing a film like Jade, just because trying to incorporate everybody. But we had so many talented people on there. And like I said, a lot of those episodes are in my opinion, really truly hysterical, even taking a step back. Noah had an episode he wrote about kind of a spinoff of 13 Reasons Why. That was hysterical. We had Caleb and Jacob Sarvis writers. They were brothers, and they wrote, the pilot. Just like there's some great stuff in that show. So I highly recommend, if you have some time, just check it out. It's short. It's a fun watch. It's just.
And you said that's on YouTube. Is that Gradient Pictures?
Yes, it's Gradient Pictures YouTube.
On YouTube?
So if you go on YouTube, just type in Gradient Pictures. It should take you directly to our page. That's where you can find most of those films. Spotting is actually on there as well. So go check those out.
Okay.
The only thing not on there is Jade. So.
Oh, the only thing is not. Where can they find Jade, or is that just
Jade is Amazon? It's on Amazon.
It's just on Amazon.
Prime,
you said that, yes.
We're still trying to make the money back on that one. So
still trying to make the money back on that one. Well, what's that like from a business point of view? Being a producer, what is it? I know you're responsible for everything.
Right.
You're the captain of the ship, basically, and when you love a project and you put your heart and soul into it, and especially if you've worn different hats other than just being the producer, that's very important. I mean, does it break your heart sometimes to say, why didn't people get this? I don't understand why they didn't just be bowled over by how great this was, or they didn't see the vision that you were trying to put forth.
Not necessarily. For me, it's the act of making the film is the best part of it. Now, I think we put out a quality project. I would have loved if more people saw it so far. But we made it together. That group got to experience it in the theater with family, friends, some other people. That was all worth it at that point. Anything else is just excess. Of course, we'd like to make the money back. Especially, we financed it mostly by myself with some help from some other people. And it's like, yeah, it'd be nice, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Okay. So let's see. What is next on our list here? Let's see. What's it like being a director? Give us for those, I'm sure everyone listening knows what it's like to be a director, but how is that different than a producer per se for you? What's been your experience doing both?
It's hard for me to kind of differentiate between all of them. To me, it all runs together. Just from a production standpoint and directing standpoint, because I know a lot of directors complain about the producer saying, hey, you only have this much time, you got to finish it, we got to move on.
Right.
I'm kind of both those roles, so I'm directing from the standpoint that, like, hey, we have 10 minutes to finish this and that's it. So it's hard for me to really differentiate the two, but it's a lot of just a lot of work. It's a lot of moving pieces. The biggest thing about it is just being able to adapt really quickly, because things are going to change. Things are going to, I don't want to say go wrong, but things are going to go.
They're going to go either horribly wrong or.
Yeah, the unexpected is going to happen. There's going to be, a light doesn't look good. There's going to be noise outside or something you have to account for.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Being in sound, I definitely know about that. Hold for airplane, hold for volcano, I don't know, or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a fun job though. I mean, it's the most fun I think I've had doing anything.
Alrighty, Mason. Well, we're at that point of the show where we've got to take a short little break. So we'll be back with more Mason Boudreau. Yeah, I said it right. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names, but anyway, we'll be right back in a second on Savannah on Film.
Hey, David, it's almost Halloween.
Yes, Rob, and you're looking for a Grinch costume, right?
No, that's for you. Actually, I'm going as the Radio Fairy.
The Radio Fairy? You mean like with wings, glitter, and pots of gold?
Sort of, although I think pots of gold are more leprechauns.
Whatever.
The Radio Fairy pays all of WRU's bills with big wads of cash. The Radio Fairy keeps community radio on the air.
Stop right there. The Radio Fairy is a figment of your voluminous exaggeration.
But coming up soon, if the Radio Fairy doesn't show up, we're going to have to ask our listeners for support. You hate the membership campaign, don't you?
Let the Radio Fairy go elsewhere. In exchange for cash, the Radio Fairy would demand our independence, our diversity, and our global soul.
Well, you have a good point there.
So maybe Grinch?
Maybe Grinch.
We're David Laughlin and Rob Hessler of Art on the Air, Wednesday afternoons at 3. Help WRUU's upcoming membership campaign be as successful as possible by increasing your gift from last year or aiming high for your first-time gift, when the time comes to give.
Learn more at WRUU's annual meeting and campaign kickoff party on Friday, October 5th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Starland Cafe during the always fun First Fridays in Starland. Local art, music, food, and fashion.
There's also more information at wruu.org.
And thanks for your support.
WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
Tune in Saturdays at 3 p.m. to Muses, Memoirs, and More, your show about authors, artists, and entertainers with your host, Adam Messer. You're listening to WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul.
The Ogeechee Riverkeeper offers monthly canoe and kayak excursions in all of the river's watershed through October. This year's paddles will take adventurers from the river's twisting and turning northern sections near Wadley, west of Augusta, to broad coastal stretches near Harris Neck, south of Savannah. The trips range from beginner to intermediate in difficulty. Boat rental is available. For more information, visit OgeecheeRiverkeeper.org.
And we are back here on Savannah on Film. I am your host, Ed Ciucevich, and I've got Mason Boudreau here with me, and we're going to talk about Montage Cinemas, which basically is I guess, a brainchild of yours.
Yes.
It's what you call pop-up theater.
Yes, sir. Pop-up movie theater.
All right.
Savannah's own.
Oh, okay. Please expound on it. I have your goals here. Do you want me to read what your goals are?
For Montage.
For Montage.
As long as you do it in the voice, you can.
Oh, I have to do it in the voice?
That's all I'm saying. Or I could try it. I mean.
Okay, you want to try it in the voice?
Can I try it in the voice?
Okay,
what goals did I write down?
Like 3A on there.
3A, okay. Locally, we want to bring excitement to cinema with our series of pop-ups and build our brand as we work towards opening a movie theater in the Starling area next winter. On a larger scale, we want to change the way people watch movies. As movie theaters change to adjust to the ridiculous amount of content in the world, we want to be a part of that change by taking the cinema out of cinema. Not on your level, man. What do you think?
I don't know. I might be out of a job.
I got to work on it. But it's a fun way to say it. I mean, really what we want to do is, locally, we do want to bring more excitement to cinema, more excitement to the movies. There's not really a place to watch movies in Savannah. You can catch a movie at the Lucas every now and then. They do some great stuff. I know SCAD has some films there as well. But outside of that, there's really nowhere to catch your new movies besides these theaters that are outdated, both aesthetically, technologically, and conceptually. And in a few ways, we want to change that. So the Montage Cinemas is our start to something that's going to be a lot bigger.
You've done pop-ups in places like Atlanta. You've done them at Bull Street Taco here in Savannah.
Well, Atlantic, not Atlanta. We haven't been that
I'm sorry.
far north yet.
Okay. Well, watch out, Atlanta. They're coming. Possibly. Atlantic, excuse me.
Yes.
Apologize to Atlantic there. Bull Street Taco, Bull Street Labs, Ghost Coast Distillery, and Service Brewing, and also Moon River.
Yes, I mean, we're trying to go everywhere.
I'm trying to go everywhere.
Yeah, we show a range of classics to new releases. You know, we had a great event with Big Bomb Pizza and Perk last week where we showed Ocean's 8. Had a great turnout there. It's a really fun thing. It's a very different way to experience movies, but so far people really seem to love it. People are really into it. We're having great turnouts at our events. Hearing great things. It's just it's kind of like a drive-in for millennials.
Okay, but anyone's welcome, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Welcome.
But if somebody I'm 25 years old, going on 25, I should say, and it's I never had the experience of going into a drive-in movie or going in something outdoors. My experiences have pretty much been in a movie theater or at home. So I think for my generation and the generation that's used to watching things on your phone, it's definitely something that's fun. It makes the movie more of an experience, which again, that's what people are going for now, because you can watch a movie on your phone, your laptop, on TV. There's so many options, and
it's never the same as on the big screen.
Right.
In a big professional cinema with the latest technology, or pop-up or whatever cinema, which I think is a great thing there.
Even on a big screen, that's still been the same thing for decades. So I think that's the thing too, is adding and making it more of an experience than just going and sitting and watching something. That's really what we're trying to do.
Okay. Big question I had when I was researching Montage Cinemas: how do you get your licensing? What do you do about the licensing to show these films? How does that work?
We go through. There's a few companies that offer licensing for. We're considered non-theatrical, so there's a couple companies we work with. Generally, most movies that are out now are accessible through these two places that we work with, as well as like the new releases. Generally, when something hits VOD, video on demand, we can get it about the same day. So we just, I have a couple of contact those companies. I just email them, hey, we want to show this movie at this time, this place, and they tell me how much it is, and it goes from there. Okay. How do you know or decide what, or who decides? Do you decide? Generally it's me. Sometimes with collaboration with the business that we're working with. I think that with so many options, the programming is super important. So it's trying to find things that are relevant to the time. Another thing is I follow trends between the Google Trends and things like that to see what people locally are searching, which is strangely, it's really accurate. I know Ocean's 8 was one of the most searched films over the past 90 days here in Savannah on Google, and that's actually our biggest turnout. So but that's the big thing, and just kind of figuring out what's relevant. We did Jaws for 4th of July, we did Ferris Bueller for Back to School, and then when there's new releases,
you could do Back to School Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
Next year, yeah. We'll show, when the Creed 2 comes out, which is something I'm stoked for. Show
that's going to be incredible.
It might be the best movie of all time. I don't know. I don't know. It might be a stretch, but
I don't know.
But we'll probably show the original Creed and Rocky 4, things like that. That kind of that are either leading up to something or that are relevant to time.
Because if someone goes to the cinema and sees Creed 2, they might want to go see
Exactly.
I know Rocky 2 or 3 or whatever.
Right. I know plenty of people who just watch all the movie. If a new Marvel movie's coming out, hey, let me go home and watch a few of them. It's like, well, why not do that somewhere else and make it fun, give you the option
in a relaxing area.
Right.
Yeah. Indoors, outdoors,
everywhere.
Depends.
Everywhere. It just depends on the location. Yeah.
Depends on the location, and I'm sure that the businesses are usually very happy to have you.
Yeah, and they're all very collaborative. There's a bunch of great people locally who've helped support and help us get the word out, build up. But yeah, it's fun for everybody. They get hopefully some more people in their business that get to watch the movie. I get some people from there who've never heard of us who are watching a movie and start following Montage. There's it's good for everybody.
So definitely family friendly.
It depends on the movie.
Depends on the movie. Okay,
of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like anything.
If people wanted to know more about Montage Cinemas, where would they go again?
So Montage, we're most active on Instagram, so you can follow us on Instagram, which is just at Montage Cinemas. We do have the Facebook page as well, where we post all the events, which is at Montage Savannah. I'd say right now Instagram's probably our heaviest marketing. We are, we're a startup, so it's very very grassroots, very guerrilla style marketing. So,
and you eventually want to grow it into, you'd like to be in Starland? There, permanent location.
We're hoping it keeps growing and then branches off into two things. One being, our goal is we do plan to open a 3-screen theater in the Starland area, hopefully by the end of next year. That's the goal, and to bring a theater that is not just a place to go watch movies, but just an entertainment center. A place where you can hang out after the movie and talk. A place where you can watch classic movies on a weekly basis. Sometimes live events. Something that's different than just going in and getting your regular popcorn and Coke. And then we also hopefully the Montage, the pop-up theater, can expand because, again, the same way industries like the taxi industry got disrupted by Uber and things like that, we want to do the same thing with movies, to where movie theaters are not just one central location that you have to go.
Do you ever have any kind of discussion about the film? After the film or beforehand, or
not yet? No, that's the goal. And I'll talk to some local filmmakers around here that we'd like to do that at some point, specifically with local films and when we do some art house films.
Right.
But just depending. Sometimes, when we show those smaller films, those art house type films that we would like to have the discussion about. So far, people aren't really showing up for those. Sometimes people right now are more interested in either the classics or like the new releases, which is
Yeah, if it hits your Facebook feed that, hey, it's the first week of summer or whatever, and Jaws is showing somewhere, and you're like, hey, yeah, I want to go see Jaws.
Right.
It's something relevant, and like you said, you follow those trends to know what people might be searching for or they might be interested in. So That's a good way to stay on top of it.
Right.
As a producer, switching gears a little bit here, is there anyone, like in your producing and directing, is there anyone that is an influence to you, someone you look up to that maybe influences your style, or maybe from an early age you said, wow, I want to do what he or she does?
Man, that's a great question. It's probably, a bunch of people I could think of off the top of my head. And honestly, my inspiration is not all from film. As a director, I think Paul Thomas Anderson is the best you can get. I watch his stuff, and that's really inspired me as a writer to try to go gear a lot more towards just the visual storytelling. Okay. As I'm in the industry more, his films just inspire me that way. From also Ryan Coogler, just because the storytelling it's kind of unmatched. Between, I'll leave Black Panther out because that is it's the Marvel movie, and it's probably one of the best Marvel movies. But between the first Creed movie and Fruitvale Station, those stories are just incredible, and I would love to be able to tell stories that way.
There's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of, a lot to grab onto emotionally in those films.
And from production, I can't really think of producers necessarily. I think what Steve Levinson does with HBO between Entourage, Ballers, shows like that, I think that kind of show running is really impressive. Being able to put something on that is, consistently drawing viewers, that's consistently entertaining. Mm-hmm. I think that's really impressive. And then something non-film related is just Bill Simmons is kind of an idol, just because, I don't know if you're familiar, Bill Simmons runs The Ringer. He used to be at ESPN. He's kind of a pioneer for just doing things your own way and bringing people together. And that would probably be my number one inspiration, just as far as that, because again, what brings me joy is just the bringing people together and collaboration.
Okay. What inspires you about being part of the film industry? What is one of the greatest joys you get from being behind the camera, in front of the camera, in all aspects?
I just love movies, man. It's just being around them is awesome. It's like I said, from actual filmmaking, I think it is, as an artist, and I don't call myself an artist necessarily,
but it is an art.
But as that, it is awesome to have an idea and then see that idea all the way through and see the result of it. It's fun to see, and sometimes what you think you're making is not what you make, and I think you learn about yourself that way, which is pretty cool. The actual act of it, again, is just bringing people together. I love working with people. I love the team. We built a Gradient. None of us knew each other, and within a couple of years, We're all great friends. People hang out, here and there. They wouldn't have known each other if not for these projects that we put together. And
Right.
that's the most rewarding thing. And then as far as, doing the montage cinemas and things like that is having people come out and celebrate film, because again, it's changing now. People aren't going to the movies the rate they used to. While the box office numbers are up, there's inflation, ticket prices are more, things like that. So bringing people together to watch a movie is, people don't really do that as much anymore unless it's a big blockbuster.
Okay. What are some of the pitfalls that you've learned from mistakes of the film industry that you've come across?
Probably my credit score a little bit.
Oh dear.
putting the movies on the credit card, which kind of true, because I know I've kind of figured out where the budget should go. I think there's certain things that, you read blogs, talk to people, hey, you should be, putting your money into this and that. And it's like, I don't know, I think there's a lot of things you can skip nowadays. I don't think there's been the blog post or the book written about how to make a feature film in 2018, But I think as far as pitfalls, it's kind of daunting. I don't mind, the lack of sleep and the work through it. I don't mind if 10 people see it and those 10 people love it. That's awesome. But yeah, I don't know if there is a pitfall. I mean, if you're creating something and you get to put it out there, there's no pitfall, man.
The original Star Trek, yeah, it was seen by millions, but the original series, it didn't do so well, and
Right.
made it a couple seasons or so, and then fell into oblivion. I saw this, how you see those stories on Facebook, and I saw the one about William Shatner, and he lived out of a van
Yeah.
under the river with Chris Farley. No, but no, I mean, he fell on hard times, and there became this cult following, because then Star Wars was out. We're talking early 80s here, late 70s, early 80s. And so Star Trek kind of waned, and then they came back with the motion picture, and then boom, if it wasn't for those fans, maybe those 10 people, maybe it started with 10 people or 10,000 people, and then it became a groundswell, and then you have a whole, decades of Star Trek movies and expanded universes and everything, that it starts with that. It starts, with that little core group. Sometimes, sometimes you'll make a film that touches 10 people. Like when I've written stuff before, I'm like, I'm writing this for me, and if somebody finds inspiration from something I've written, then it's all the better, And when you create something, whether you're a writer, and this is something that I wanted to kind of, we may have touched on already, but when you're writing something and you're directing it, I know several professionals that do that in the industry here locally, and it's difficult, but it's really hard sometimes to focus on so many different aspects without something losing 100% of your attention. You've got to be very disciplined, I suppose, and well, you definitely have to be to be able to excel in like writing, directing, producing. When you wear too many hats, sometimes there's too many pots on the stove, and something's going to burn if you don't watch it.
Yeah.
So it takes an incredible amount of self-discipline,
Right.
to do that. So where do you see like your film career in 5 years?
That is, I have no idea. I have 2 projects that are just in the writing phase right now, and hopefully we make both of those and kind of see what happens. I don't really like to be goal oriented with film because there's no financial drive for me. It's if it makes money, that's awesome. I think if you're in it and your goal is to make money off of it, you're not going to be successful. You're not going to make anything very good. I think that has to come from a place that's really internal, really introspective. So I just want to write things that are true to myself and make those projects and just see where it goes. If, like I said, hopefully those projects get out there, people see them, they have more success than the last projects, and that we continue to make more stuff. We have the ability to make more. That's the only goal, really.
What trends do you see in the film, just in the overall film industry as a whole?
It's more from the business perspective. I think people have way more opportunities now than before.
The technology is made so much available.
It's the technology, and it's now that the studio system really only puts out 10, 15 movies a year. Then you have your indies, and you have companies like Amazon, Apple, and Netflix that are putting so much money just to acquire content that there is more good content around too. I mean, the technology gives us a lot of content. I'm not it's not all necessarily good. I'm sure it's good to the people making it, but I think, you know, you have Amazon putting out these movies, like what's the recent one that Gus Van Sant did that nobody really saw, but it's out there. It's don't worry, he won't get far on foot. You know, stuff like that isn't happening, you know, probably 10 years ago. I think we're at a point where,
but like, now,
like in the 90s, you had a lot of cool like independent films, and then, you know, now there's this break where it was really all just studio based.
Didn't Tarantino kind of start out that way a little bit?
Right.
You know, and he's mainstream, even though he's kind of another stream of the mainstream. But you know, his movies have done exceptional, and they've brought a totally different visual style, perspective, storytelling perspective, you know, to the industry. And I think that diversity and that all those different, like having your group, having all those writers on your web series there, you know, they bring different things into it and make it a better on whole.
I think another trend,
project.
there's just more stories being told from more just diverse people. You know, there's a lot of talk about casts of movies being more diverse, and that's true, but the stories are becoming more diverse, which is really cool. I think you're going to start to see a lot of stories we haven't seen in decades past. I
think, you know, I love to see the diversity that's going on, especially, you know, in Hollywood and everywhere else, and it's a good sign. But if you do it where the point of the story suffers, see, the story I think always has to be central to what you're doing, you know, and don't just cast a person because you feel like you have to check off these boxes, this certain person, this type of person. You know, if that person isn't integral to your particular film there, then, you know, maybe that's not the best casting, you know. And I've seen some movies where I feel like they've casted because they felt they needed to be with the times and forward thinking, but they've done it at the expense of the storyline. And you should, I think your storyline, don't you agree that your storyline should be the primary thing? You got to service that storyline. And if there's nothing wrong with the casting, but it's sometimes not always the best casting that you could do. You know, if you're doing it for trying to be politically correct or whatever, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head like that, but I definitely say you want to do truth to the characters. But I think my perspective is less about the casting and the people in the movies, and it's people who are making the movies. Having a diverse group of filmmakers and hearing stories from different perspectives is awesome, and we don't see a lot of that. You know, and that's starting to become more and more prevalent. We're starting to see more stories that we haven't before. I mean, you know, there's been plenty of white guys making movies for decades and decades, and we've seen those stories and like life experiences. They've kind of all been made. So having more and more people tell those other stories is awesome.
Yeah, it is, because I've seen a lot of smaller movies that maybe didn't do so good at the box office that now that trend is more that you're seeing a lot of more independent style movies that are making big bucks now. You know, Get Out was, you know, an example of a movie, just to name one.
Right.
Baby Driver was a phenomenal movie, you know, and you know, you don't always see those different perspectives, and it is good to see that and see that becoming more mainstream, because we're getting more voices from all different ways, I think, and I just think the more the better.
It's a super positive trend. The more stuff you have to watch that is new to you, whether it's from a perspective or something technologically, the more just different stuff is out there, the better.
Yeah, a movie that transforms me, takes me totally out of my life, my situations, and puts me into this character, and you know, I've got to know what the next scene is, because I've got to, you know, something that draws you in, that kind of not just pulls at your heart and your soul, but it says, you know, I've got to know what this character is going through, or hey, identify with that character, what they're going through, and their journey that they're on. And as long as I think the trick is not to make it predictable, obviously,
right?
You know, but to be true to the story. And it's good to see that film is evolving, I think, that way. Locally, what do you think are some things that can help with the infrastructure of the film community here? Your thoughts?
More films.
Yeah,
I think more. I mean, I don't know enough about the community yet from that perspective. You know, I moved to Savannah here in February. I haven't been that involved, so I'm not super knowledgeable about it. But just from being on social media, hearing about things, I haven't heard or seen a lot of different, like from the local independent artists, like putting on, whether it's like a movie night or, you know, a film being released or just like a workshop night. That's something.
There are a few Facebook groups out there that link you to things, and unfortunately that's well, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but you know, a lot of people are communicating that way and setting up events, and there are a lot of diverse filmmakers with interesting stories to tell, and Savannah does have a wealth of that. It's just
Right.
getting that message out sometimes is hard to find that platform sometimes.
And that's we hope Montage Cinemas can be that platform too. We want to offer somewhere where you can take if you have an independent movie that you are, you know, you're finished, you want to show to people, you know, we'd be glad to show it. That's one of the things I want to do. I've talked to other filmmakers here. It's like, if we can get, you know, a few quality films together that can, you know, warrant an hour or so of time, we would gladly put all those on.
Right. So for anyone that's listening that's taking notes and saying, I need to talk to this Mason guy, what's the best way for them to contact you? If they had maybe, you know, Montage Cinemas, they say, hey, what about my film, you know?
Yeah, just send us a message, man. Just go Instagram, Facebook, just find us, message us. Your message will go to me one way or another, and I will, you know, we'll talk for sure.
All righty. Well, that clock on the wall tells me it's time to go. So I want to thank you, Mason Boudreau.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Right. I want to thank you, Mason, for joining us, for joining me today here on Savannah on Film. Savannah on Film wants to feature film professionals at different levels, and if you're listening and you're in the industry, I'd love to talk to you too. Our email is savannahonfilm@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook as Savannah on Film. We're also over there on Twitter, and I don't think we got Instagram.
No,
I have to work on that.
Get on there, man.
Yeah, I've got an Instagram, but just not for the Savannah on Film. Anyway, we're also on YouTube, where you'll get to hear this. Give me a little time, but you'll get to hear this interview as well as many others. You can check out our YouTube channel, hit subscribe if you'd like there. And just want to remind you that Savannah on Film is a voice for the Savannah film industry. And you've been listening to Savannah on Film with your host, Ed Ciucevich, on WRUU 107.5 FM, LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. You have been listening to another episode of Savannah on Film, where we give a voice to the Savannah film community. Please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. This program was originally broadcast on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and worldwide on www.wruu.org. Join us next time for more intriguing insights into the vibrant Savannah film community here at Savannah on Film.